Three, two, one. We are recording. Hey, Joe, you're back underground. Looks like you're a world traveler. What's going on these days?
Yeah, back underground. It's the safest place to be, Mike. As you can see from the underground, I'm appropriately social distanced from everybody, including the train. There's nobody on the train, as you can see.
I thought I had OCD, but you must be cleaning those trains every day because I can almost see my reflection from those things. So, how long does it take you to clean one of those cars?
Well, Mike, it's a good question. Of course, it's my virtual background, but I did spit shine it before we got on the got on the air here.
It looks good. It looks good. It's what you
Yeah.
got to do. That garage looks bigger than Jay Leno's. So, hey, he's got a bunch of cars. You've got a whole subway station. So that's strong to quite strong.
I win that one for sure. Yeah. Mike, what you been up to since the last time we talked?
Well, we had Mother's Day here recently, so we were able to kind of celebrate with social distancing. We were outside, so that was nice. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of a little bit of I know Groundhog Days for a lot of folks, but certainly pretty well versed with the video conferencing and been messing around with virtual backgrounds like yourself. So
We had for Mother's Day. My mom, who's 96, we had a family Zoom meeting. So, and she just was. This is the second one we've done, and it's just so fun to watch her. She just is all smiles the entire time, just observing and watching. Doesn't really like to talk on it. Just wants to hear everyone else. But it was a lot of fun. We had people. My brother's kids are in the UK, and we had people all over the country: Memphis, Tennessee, and Seattle, and apparently nobody wants to live where my mom lives. So we were all scattered all over the country.
Everybody wanted to move. What's kind of funny too, folks that are maybe not as tech savvy in the past, how much they have appreciation for some tech, some tech, right? I've got a family member that's kind of the same boat right there. It's nice to see them very tech savvy and like really excited about some of this stuff. So it is pretty neat, right? How real it is. Kind of like just going to a football game, right? The HD is almost as good as being at a game in a way, right? So it's come a long way.
It's interesting. As a CIO for many years, video conferencing technology has always been the bane of my existence. Whenever a conference room doesn't work, Graham, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Here we are doing it all the time, and everybody's experiencing the same problems: freezing up, pixelated voices, and all kinds of crazy things.
Don't know how to log in. Yeah.
People now have a little more sympathy for what we had to go through in the corporate world. So,
yeah.
Right.
Everybody's becoming an expert at it now, right?
Right.
Self-service. So, well, with that, we've got one of your good friends here on the show. Would you mind making an introduction to our guest today?
It would be my pleasure, Chief. We have Graham Hardy here today on the podcast. Graham and I had the pleasure of working together for 5.5 years. We were just going through the math before we got on the air here. And Graham is one of the best architects and best leaders that I've had the pleasure of working with. And he and I went through hell and back on a couple of fun projects at SnapAV. He helped us bring up and alive our brand new e-commerce platform a number of years ago, which was always more challenging than the exec team wants it to be. And probably the most fun I've had with Graham is I pulled him off that project when he was working for me and pulled him onto a platform, an IoT platform called IoT. Or called OvrC, which is an IoT-based platform, and I'll let Graham explain what that is. And today is a major milestone in the platform. When I was still working with Graham and the team a couple years back, we started a project that has now finally come to fruition, and they're launching today. But Graham has long been an IT pro, has actually lived and worked in a variety of different cities. If I remember correctly, Graham, you spent some time in Florida, New York. You grew up in Minnesota, so we've got that connection as well. And anything else you want to add to your background, Graham, while we have you here?
No, I think other than just I too have really loved the 5.5 years we got to work together, Joe. It was a pleasure. I think such a great you retiring and all of that. Having the opportunity to learn from you, and I always was amazed at the things, Joe, that you could just off the top of your head bring out. And I actually, Mike, you might find this interesting. I actually have a Topinka folder of things that I've just saved through the years that I know I will use at some point and have brought them out numerous times.
Well, we're trying to coin a new nickname for him. I think he should be the Grand Poobah, but we'll see.
I don't know.
There you go. Yeah.
Coach, you're the chief. I'll be the coach. I don't know.
I think Grand Poobah, maybe.
Maybe our listeners can suggest a name as long as it. Please be generous.
You just went down the wrong rabbit hole with that one, Joe. We'll have a contest.
So Graham, you've had a great career at Snap. It's coming up on 7 years. Love for our listeners to hear a little bit about the IoT platform that you guys have been hard at work at.
Yeah. So it's probably worth mentioning just a brief what SnapAV does. We are essentially a manufacturer of audio video equipment, and that translates into about 4,000 different SKUs that we make in the audio video industry. Everything from lines of surveillance to network to last year we merged with a company named Control4 who builds a control system for the home. And so about 6 years ago, the need for IP products that we sold to be able to be remotely managed and monitored, and this kind of falls into the RMM industry, was needed. And so team started building this platform we have today called OvrC, which Joe took the lead in numerous years and then gave me the reins about 4 years ago. And so I've been running the platform for about 4 years. And today we have just under 10 million devices on the platform and some 300,000 locations or more. And our customers are essentially using it to all of the IoT, all of the smart devices that they install in someone's home or small business. They use OvrC essentially to remotely monitor and manage all of those products.
And you have a major release coming tonight.
Yeah.
I still use my OvrC platform now and then, but thankfully the equipment that I have from Snap running in my house, I don't have the 4,000 SKUs running in my house, but I have quite a few. They all work pretty damn well, so I'm pretty happy about that. But tell us about this new release and what was the reason behind it, and what are you hoping to get from it on the other side?
Yes, so this is the biggest release we've done. It's a completely new redesigned application, new mobile app. So the desire was really OvrC about 2 years ago when we started off on this effort, had reached a point where very successful, but kind of needed to make the investments to go to the next level. We had a mobile app at the time, but it was limited in features. We had an offshore team, decided to bring that onshore. And so the efforts to redo this entire thing was really around trying to build for the future, for the next 5 to 10 years. And so chose to build it on the React platform, did kind of a major overhaul of it. And yeah, tonight we're releasing it tonight. So tomorrow all the marketing efforts and everything will go out to talk about the new release. The other big part of this too is around, with the merger with Control4 had acquired 2 competitors to OvrC, one called Backpack and one called Ahiji. And since the merger, we've sort of remained silent around the strategy of those 2 platforms. And so the other big announcement is that OvrC will be the one platform going forward, and we will be working over the next number of months to help Backpack and Ahiji dealers who are invested in that platform transition into OvrC. So it becomes kind of the one IoT remote management platform for the company going forward.
Yeah, I think, just in terms of a simple use case, Graham, could you just share with our viewers, what a dealer of Snaps would do with OvrC, and why is it important to their operation?
Yeah, good question, Joe. So our customers are the professional dealer who goes into the home and installs smart things in the home, everything from TVs to networking equipment and all that. And with the complexity, years ago, Joe, you used to have a great slide that I still use today of the AV guy was called in to put nice speakers in the home, and today he's called in to put smart TVs and surveillance and outdoor televisions and wired up to Wemos and all kinds of things like that. And so his world became super complex. And so when he leaves the home after he's installed all this complexity, the last thing he wants to hear is like something doesn't work. And so OvrC really started around that basic use case. Like, how do you solve the problem of, Mrs. Jones calls and says, my Apple TV doesn't work. And so the first product that was OvrC enabled was a power unit we have called Wattbox, which allows the customer to reset any one of the outlets on the power unit. And so when Mrs. Jones would call and say, hey, my Apple TV isn't working, the dealer could just through OvrC remotely power cycle that outlet on the watt box, and she was off and running, and he never had to roll a truck out there. So that really gained traction as the home became more and more complex with all of these different IP products that are now in the home. I think last time I looked, on average, our customers install about 70 or more devices in each home.
Wow.
So I think any of us, if you took all the devices you had, you probably have, take kids' devices and all that, you probably clearly have about that many. So it started kind of with that. It's expanded now to configuring network equipment, surveillance equipment, IP-powered amplifiers, and a number of other devices that they can all now remotely manage.
I think the key thing that really happened at Snap is, for a long time, Snap designed and sold product on their digital commerce platform. And with OvrC, it helped transform the organization into almost a managed services provider. And I remember being at the annual conference. It's called CEDIA, and you have some 20,000 dealers there. And we always had a booth, and there'd be 5 or 6 of us doing demos, and we'd be swamped with demos all day long. And the thing really took off. And how many devices are connected now, Graham? So
we're right in the 9 million range. We're adding, hundreds of thousands every month. So of those, it's kind of 2 flavors of products. It's either products that SnapAV engineers to talk to OvrC independently. And we have roughly about 270 or so SKUs that are independently engineered to talk directly to our cloud. And then we have a product we call the OvrC Pro device, which comes in different flavors. It's in our routers. It's a standalone device. And that device allows, when installed on a network, can bring third-party information into OvrC. And so that's really where the volume is with a lot of the third-party products. But we have, I want to say, roughly around 1.5 million, 1.6 million or so, just of the SnapAV engineered products that are talking to the cloud.
Yeah, I think in my house I have over 100 devices connected. I've got a lot of smart lights and and I was shocked because I have the OvrC Pro platform, of course. And the cool thing about that is, if you're an installer, you can actually get to those devices on OvrC on your smartphone. Yep. So you can see a router or an access point if even if it's not something that SnapAV manufactures, and it really has been a game-changing platform. I think in this world of IoT, a lot of people are talking about the cybersecurity aspects of it. And it would be interesting, Graham, if you could just talk about the measures and the processes and the things you guys have done to ensure you've got a secure platform.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, and Joe, you were really the impetus to get started in all this when you were CIO at Snap, and that really was around engaging with partners that had cybersecurity backgrounds that we could leverage their expertise, ones like Fortalice and some other ones. And so, yeah, we do regular assessments. As the company has grown, we now have our own internal cyber teams that are constantly evaluating and checking on different cyber-related things. And also, it's been important for us to start working cyber into the design of products. So whether it's a networking product or whether it's a feature within OvrC, those things are starting to be engineered from the beginning, not just an afterthought, which was years ago was not the first thought. It was much more oh yeah, by the way, we built something, now we have to make it secure. Now it's being thought of pushing that upstream of cybersecurity. So it's always a challenge. It's not an area where I really claim to have any expertise in. But at the same time, because of the nature of what we're doing, it's something we definitely have to keep in the forefront of everything we build and have.
Yeah, you talked about the transition from offshore development resources to onshore. In terms of the marketplace, how difficult or easy was that to make that transition and find the right resources?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's semi-difficult, although I will say, OvrC has a bit of a coolness play. So as we look to attract new resources, especially in the Charlotte market where we can pull from either the banks or different areas, and when somebody walks into our office and they get to walk through our demo room and see all the smart devices and the control stuff, there's definitely a passion that you see people start to have for the products, and most of us have it all in our home, and so So I think that's a key element. We do have a bit of a coolness factor. I also think and again, Joe, this was something you instilled in me for many years was, the team element and helping the team to make a decision around who we choose to hire and who we choose to bring into the team has been a, tremendous area of our success. That it's not just a manager's decision or my decision or someone like that, but it's really, the approach we take is the team interviewing them. They're making a decision about who they want to make a part of their culture. And that's really, I think, been a huge element of our success has been, keeping that.
Yeah, it's really getting that nice mix and getting some healthy conflict when you need it. People who aren't shy about, speaking up or having a counter opinion. And I always enjoyed that when if I had an idea that you didn't agree with, you had no qualms about letting me know that, you thought there might be a better way. So those were always healthy, good conversations. And I think it made us better as leaders. And I think our teams saw that behavior and realized that it's okay. And I think that's one of the things that helped propel the team to success.
Joe, there's a story I got to tell you that recently happened. So, one of the original CEOs and founders of the SnapAV company, Craig Craze, came to the office, and he hadn't been in quite a number of years. A few months ago, and he wanted to find out what was the latest with OvrC, because OvrC was really his idea. It was his idea to kind of he saw this problem that was coming in the industry around remote management being problematic, and so I got to walk him through a full demo, and it just fascinating. But the aspect that I thought you would find interesting was, Joe, you were really the one that kept alive the vision of third-party products, and keeping that ecosystem play. And he was really surprised by that. Like, why would we have chose to enable a competitor's product of one of ours? And it's like, well, that's really what benefits the dealer. And so, and Joe, Mike, you'll know, had that vision and really kept it alive even when it was an uphill battle. And so it's proved extremely successful, to kind of sticking to your guns in that. But I thought I'd share that with you because Craig really appreciated. The one picture he took, Joe, was kind of interesting. Is he took a picture of all the different third-party products that we have enabled on one of the racks, because that was the thing that captured his interest the most. So,
well, today it better happen that way. We've talked about it, Joe, right? And I'm doing it right now. It's like, okay, what applications, are organic in their integrations with your platform? If I've got to go build that, if I don't have the team or the expertise or the knowledge, or how's that going to impact support, right? The questions people typically don't ask on the front end of when they're evaluating a certain software, right? Is okay, great, yeah, everything's API hooks, but I've got a problem with it. Where are the fingers going, through this whole situation? So as you evaluate these third-party vendors, what are some of the important things that, you got to imagine it's probably not everybody, you could, but what are some of the things that you're evaluating that makes it a smart move to onboard a new third-party vendor?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, Mike, is the voice of our customer. Like, our customers tell us what is important to them. And if a new product's on the market in the AV space, or even in the numbers, we start to see those raise to the top. Those are the ones that we choose to go after more aggressively. And so, some of the integrations we've done, obviously every dealer is going to install TVs. And so Samsung TVs, one we've done deeper integrations with. Audio video receivers. We don't make audio video receivers today, but we've done integrations with some of the top manufacturers in those areas. So it's kind of a combination of both. It's data we get back from analytics, and it's also, what are our customers telling us that is important to them? And we've highlighted that. We've also taken a really smart approach. So SnapAV acquired a small company named House Logics, and Joe was actually a big impetus to that acquisition. But they had an approach of really taking common protocols that devices talk and enabling the protocols instead of just the products. And so that approach was fundamental to our breadth of products we can enable, because we took that approach rather than specifically going after product after product after product, which would have been a numerous amount of enablements we would have had to have done.
So, yeah, I think Chief, you made a really good point. The idea behind that platform and the credit that Graham gives me, it really came from IT. As a CIO, if you're managing platforms and you want a single pane of glass to see, kind of what your ecosystem is looking like and how it's performing. And so that's where that idea came from. It was just through hard knocks, and really the customers that Snap has, really they're kind of the IT department for these high net worth individuals that buy this gear. And Graham, is it still true that you're typically looking at $500,000 homes and up is kind of the sort of line in the sand? I mean, IoT devices are pretty prevalent and DIY is pretty prevalent, but where do you see that that line being drawn?
I think whenever someone's hiring a professional to come into your home to install technology, it obviously tends to be in your upper net worth individuals who are going to do that. But you're also seeing, I think the term that we use today is called the do it with me. So obviously with the prevalent of things like, Ring doorbells and Nest thermostats and things like that, customers are installing those in their home, but then they hit a level where they've got 10 apps they're managing, and now they want to really start to integrate those all together. And that requires a control system, and it requires some more advanced things. And so now they've had these do-it-yourself products that they're trying to marry with smart home products. And, that's when the professional comes in. So there's obviously ones that start out from the get-go that's like, hey, I don't want to handle this. I'm hiring a professional to do all of it. But you're also in our industry starting to see this kind of blend of DIY products with professionals. And the complexity is so great today. Like it's, what people have in their homes is not just one room of audio, it's multi-room, it's Sonos, it's all these different things that they're trying to marry together.
So let me ask you this. I just randomly was looking through one of the vendors that I work with, and they have thermal analytics that tie into your existing camera systems. So you can view folks if they're technically, they're overheated, right, for some sort of reason, right? For, hey, maybe they have a fever or something. So are there any thermal analytic products that that are coming? Again, I don't want to. If you can't talk about it, I hit a sore spot.
Yeah. Well,
but it's just kind of interesting. I saw it. I was like, wow, using existing cameras and turning in thermal analytics with COVID and everything going on, it just sounds like it's a really neat way to respond to the situation, right? That can help people maybe get back to normalcy, right?
So it's a great question, Mike. I would say it's undoubtedly the case that analytics in surveillance is the future. Everyone recognizes it. I would kind of separate what SnapAV and our customers do a little bit different than some of your mainstream ones. Mm-hmm. So, for example, take what Google's thrown into the Nest line of cameras. Like obviously, the big players like Google and Facebook can put tons of R&D work into complex analytics. But they tend to be cloud-based. They tend to be one or two cameras that homeowners buy. Where in the professional market, you're dealing with 8, 16, 32 channel systems for surveillance. And so our customers professional,
right?
Yeah, they're hiring someone to come in to do an 8 channel for true security reasons, maybe even tying it directly into their security panel. And so those systems today, most of them have not advanced as much as the R&D work that Google and those can put into, the 1 or 2 cameras that you can buy in the consumer market. However, there's a big effort for all of us in the professional market to continue to expand into those areas.
What next gen things do you think are going to be important for this whole COVID thing, right? Maybe leveraging, Snap products, or even just with your technology mindset, right? What do you see as the keys for opportunities in the next 12 months? I know there's a lot of unknowns, but get out your crystal ball.
Yeah, I think actually it's probably really simple. I think in reality, people, the network is today the backbone of the home, right? If you don't have a solid network in your home, like everything else is problematic, right? And Mike, you were just talking about this earlier about upgrading your ISP bandwidth, getting a new router, right? And so, like, if I were to say what I think is in the near term after the COVID thing, like people are going to want to upgrade their networks because they're all working from home and they're probably struggling with multiple, meetings. So I think you definitely see, and you see that in the professional market that we service. Like, professional installers attach themselves based on the networking equipment being the foundation, and then it kind of spreads out from there. And OvrC has been successful because our customers buy in one of those categories, they work it into the ecosystem, they realize they can manage it, and they start buying in other categories. They start buying our surveillance equipment, they start buying our power products. And so that's what's made us successful at it. But to me, I think if I were to say what's the near future hold, like I think people are going to want more robust home networks. I think it's a no-brainer. And I think, the step beyond that is really how do I connect it all together in an ecosystem? I think the multiple apps works, but those change pretty frequently, and being able to connect it, into an ecosystem. I think if you go even further out, our head of our technology, a gentleman by the name of Charlie Kindle, has a deck that he does around, what is smart home today, what is versus a true AI home of the future, where things are predicting your behaviors and that kind of thing. Definitely that's further down the road, but I think that's where we go from the smart home and what commands to Alexa tell us to do versus predictive things where my lights come on because it knows my behavior and things like that.
So I'll give you one scary moment. I was on a Zoom call and somebody said something and it activated my Alexa.
Yeah.
Did they order anything good and expensive and have it shipped to their house?
Should have, but it's just one of those things you don't think of, right? I mean, I'm in technology, so I'm maybe a little more socially aware, but I don't know if somebody would have noticed, right? Alexa going off in the background. It happened to be maybe how my speakers were or whatever, but it was weird because my Alexa was on the other side of the compound over here, and so I guess you talked about AI, right? How would you define AI? Because there's some people I think kind of cheat with that word for marketing purposes. What's AI?
Yeah. So I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert in AI at all, because I think my dabbling in it is true. I think the way I would describe it and where we've started to look at it is you obviously have algorithms out there that can learn things that you feed it, right? And so especially when you talk to surveillance, if you feed an AI engine, people in lots of different scenarios, that thing starts to learn and starts to be able to know what people look like, right? And so when you look at some of your big surveillance players in this space, they've basically taken what's a common model that someone has built some common algorithm and are just feeding it constantly information so that it learns all the different scenarios in which those things are. And so they can over time become really, really good. One little thing we did, SnapAV hosts the Charlotte IoT user group that Dan Thayer has had for a number of years. And Microsoft is doing some really cool stuff in this, where they're doing predictive facial recognition, and they're able to tell if you have glasses on or if you're dark haired or what your age is and things like that. And it's obviously because they're feeding models lots and lots of different scenarios to be able to do those kinds of things. So that's about where my knowledge of AI starts to end, though.
That's good.
Your comment about the IoT meetup, which you were kind of a leader in getting that organized. With this whole COVID thing, just could you comment on that group, and then also on how has your group adopted to working remotely on an exclusive?
Yeah. So the meetup, to be honest, I think we've been suspended. I do think we have a post out there for sometime in August with Amazon, but obviously we can't meet together, so we haven't had any since the COVID thing. Regarding our group, so my team specifically, we have about half the team that's remote already. We've got people in Seattle and Atlanta and different places. So we've worked with remote groups for a long time. So I feel like we're really it's been second nature to us, for everyone else to be remote. And we had established, our team scrum calls on a daily basis and other meetings throughout the week, weekly team meetings that we really had established well already, Joe. So I think it's sort of just been second nature for us to kind of just keep going with the process we have. And so obviously people are stir crazy, and we're joking about who looks like the most homeless week to week. But yeah, it's something that I think, and again, I give you a lot of credit for this, because I think you helped us to see that you can work remotely without it being an issue. And so it's fallen in nature. It is very interesting. seeing other parts of the organization that didn't work remotely, how their perspective is changing significantly. Like you frequently hear the comments of like, I think we're all a lot more productive, because we don't have all the things going on in the office. And so I could definitely foresee coming out of this that, the work remote, the ability to hire people that are remote, that are not in your office, will significantly change, because we've now proven we can do it, in much different areas. Changes
your staffing model too, right? I mean, again, you're looking for skills. You're looking for skills, and if you need that certain skill, it's a matter of, okay, do they have the people and the leadership skills versus do they have the hardcore skills? Do I want them to learn on my time, right? So I think it gives, as a leader, to build out your team, gives you more options, right? You don't have to be just, okay, they got to be within a 50 or 100-mile radius of where our headquarters is, our office. But, I think IT has a little more slack in that, because you've got developers, and it's always kind of been that. But I think now it just breaks down the walls for the whole organization, just to hire the right teammates. And that's going to help your business, hopefully, right?
Yep. We actually successfully onboarded a brand new employee during the COVID thing. So he was a gentleman from New York who wanted to move to Charlotte, went through the whole interview process. We brought him down in December, but just so happens that, by the time his first start date, we were already all working from home. So we ended up shipping him his computer. He's been now with us for about a month and a half or so. And, he's still in New York, because what else can he do? So, but it's been very successful. He's just fit in as a member of the team. And, one kind of interesting thing the team did that they've sustained, which is kind of cool, which, to get to know him better, since everyone was remote, they set up a weekly lunch call just to get the whole team on a lunch. And that has been sustained for the last 6 or 7 weeks. It's like, hey, let's just keep this thing going. It gives everybody an opportunity to kind of not have a formal meeting, and people can grab lunch and,
that's cool. So, I like that.
Kind of cool things that came out of it.
Are you still celebrating releases with your favorite shake? That's
what shake, Joe? What do you mean by that?
Like a malt or whatever you guys would do every time you release.
I would say it's more like bourbon or something.
Bourbon,
like
okay.
That.
I was just,
I'll help you out with those product releases.
There'd always be a beverage or two of choice.
Yeah, of course. So we're actually, we've been trying to push into more of a CI/CD model where we can do releases more frequently. And so since about the last, I want to say 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 months, after our 2-week sprints, we're actually releasing now. So it's less of an ordeal. It's less of a big event. And so we've tried to remove some of the complexities, because we have essentially a microservice architecture in our cloud that runs the whole back end. And there's a lot of interdependencies that make that complex, but we're getting better and better at being able to, release on a more frequent basis.
So CI/CD is continuous integration, continuous deployment?
Continuous deployment, yep.
Yeah. So
the ultimate idea of CI/CD is that, if you think of it in its purest form, you take a Jira ticket, it moves to done, and everything gets deployed automatically. We're not nearly at that level, but and things can roll back if something fails automatically. But that's the goal, is to try to get more into that mode.
Well, I know we're coming up on our time, but I'd love to get your perspective on, as you think ahead, who are the people that influence you, and who are you following out there in the spaces that you follow? What's kind of motivating you and keeping your interest?
Yeah, I think definitely the big players in the IoT space we're very interested in. I sort of am a lover of Warren Buffett's approach to things, his simple approach to both investment and business and those kinds of things. So I think I've learned a lot of just applying those things. I think too, Joe, one of the things that as I've advanced in my career, understanding the dynamics of what's going on in the business has been such an important part in my learnings, I think, because technology continues to advance, but being able to articulate that in all the different terms you have to in the business world is a tricky thing. So that's a big one. There's a quote that I think I quoted to you guys from Scott Guthrie, who is one of the principals at Microsoft. I think he's one of the founders of .NET. But he made the statement that don't forget that the lawyers work for you. And I think this space, especially as complex as IoT is, there can be a tendency to say, well, we have to have everything, dotted by the attorneys and those kinds of things. But I think that almost inhibits the innovative part of things. And I think the fact that we have to continue to stay innovative in what we're doing and, cutting edge in our thinking. And then, of course, we have to sometimes check those through the attorneys and those to make sure they're okay. But I always like that comment because it puts things in perspective that what you're driving for is really, better innovative products. And I think that's why I think, Joe, you loved your time at Snap. That's why I've loved it, is because you get to work on some really innovative things and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's the blend of understanding the market and the business and its performance, and then that niche of how does your solution actually fit into that whole ecosystem. I think that's the magic that you've been able to accomplish at Snap, and it's been a lot of fun having you on the podcast today. Anything besides the new release that you want to promote or talk about today?
No, I think I watched you guys start to establish this, and I think it's a great idea. I really appreciate you guys having me on the program, and would love to in the future kind of catch up and see how things are going and what's changed.
Yeah, well, we'll have you on the podcast again. I'd love to hear about how the release went. I'm sure it'll be smooth and exciting. I'll be waiting for my push tonight on my iOS device. So, Mike, I'll turn it back over to you, Chief.
Excellent. Well, hey, thanks, Graham. SnapAV has a special place in my heart. About 15, 16 years ago, there's a little company called Zobo TV that was off of Old Pineville Road. And that was kind of like their first sort of headquarters before they moved on to Westinghouse.
That's right.
They needed some internet from some guy over at a company called Time Warner Telecom, and he was able to help hook them up with 10 megs of new fiber into that.
Wow.
10 megs of fiber internet, going from DSL to 10 megs. So I don't know who that guy was, but I heard he did a really, really, really good job. They ordered from him again, so apparently did something right.
That's right.
The Westinghouse, right? I've got a special place in my heart with seeing the growth at SnapAV. So thank you and Joe for everything you guys done to put SnapAV here on the map in Charlotte, and all of your coworkers. I know you have a lot of friends there on the IT side and on your team that I've worked with in the past. So definitely love what you guys do. Obviously, for selfish reasons, it's a great company here in Charlotte that keeps growing. And some people might not know they have SnapAV in their house. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's true. Lots of our products. Well, thanks you guys. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You have a good night, Graham.
Have a good day.
Thanks,
Take
Joe.
care. Yeah.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.